Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Big roster update in the VCT last night. Rumour has it Evil Geniuses might be making a major change going into the end of the season playoffs as they try and qualify for the World Championship. Icy though denies that he's out of the team, although some scrimbugs might well say otherwise. And also, what's happening at Fnatic? Confirmation last night that Crashies will play the end of the season and the World Championship, which Fnatic have now qualified for. And rumour has it confirmed by the top man at Fnatic themselves that Leo, there will be an update in due course, but it seems that it's not going to be a good one for his future with the team. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into. Starting here, more roster drama on the day. Rossi is gone from Lev. So it's been quite the roller coaster really, hasn't it, here for Rossi? All the drama with C9, then on Lev, and even that whole team has been through an absolute mess really with what's going on with Demon 1, and Rossi was there and now he's no longer there. They're building around Sato for good reason, I would say, on that left team. They're not going to want to let him go for any amount of money for good reason over the next season or so. Rossi's gone. Where Rossi goes next, good question, but that's been officially confirmed. As he says, rough year for me individually, as I've been gifted a very unique set of circumstances. Regardless, opportunities are opportunities. I'm deeply blessed, looking for a team as an unrestricted free agent. I think Rossi will be back. Where he'll be back, that's a very good question. Let's talk about Fnatic though. Yesterday, as Kayak says, game day versus Apex. It must have been a bit of a bittersweet series for Kayak because this Apex team, they're not going to make it to the playoffs. They're not going to make it to the World Championship. They're not going to make it back into the VCT. They're not even going to get the chance to fight at Ascension. They will be straight up demoted because they were just terrible. Now, part of that was the fact that Kayak was there. He qualified with him and then he got a better offer. And that's fine, right? That is what it is, right? It just, that's life. He was a great player. He got an offer from Fnatic. He's done great things. He's only getting better and better, it seems. But the fact that he was kind of the one to put the absolute final nail in the coffin of Apex, especially because as an organization, we don't know what the future of Apex is. They might just, let's say, fold entirely. There's been some talk about that, given what's happened in other esports with them lately. But this was an absolute demolition job when it mattered, as well as the series went on. This is a big one, right? Boaster, at this point, has no kills. And yet, in a 1 versus 3, he finds himself clutching up the rounds, which is, yeah, you know what? Fair play, Boaster. In big moments, he does tend to deliver like this sometimes. But it's just a funny one, right? Apex, they looked like second map they were going to give themselves a chance, and then Boaster in a 1v3 clutches it, and all of a sudden it's downhill from there. This was the ace, by the way, that Kayak got with the Sheriff to really put the nail in the coffin. I mean, that first shot is just disgusting. The collateral headshot with the Sheriff. The fact that he gets the third as well, even though he, like, his own teammates in front of him, crashes in front of him there, basically blocking his vision, is just like so impressive to do that. And he closed out the round with some disgusting shots as well. Fnatic take the 2-0, as I say, the Lotus, they gave it a good go, but after Fnatic won that round, Fnatic then dominated the defensive side of the Lotus, and they won it 13-10. It was Apex pick, Fnatic's pick on Bind was 13-5, Kayak was 26-9, so yeah, tough way for Apex to officially bow out effectively of the entire championship. But Fnatic, they've qualified for the big one. So with that result, they've got enough points on the board. They will be at Masters or Champions Paris. The only other two teams to qualify were the two Americas teams, G2 and Sentinels. But Fnatic are the first from the rest of the world to lock in their spot officially. Penny says, like, that's it for me and the team for the season. I'll try and be back next year. But this is what Kojo says, the team director of the team, and given that they've qualified for Champions now, he wanted to kind of clarify what's happening with the team and made a pretty big statement, really. Quick note for the fans, I know that they'll be curious. Crashies will be playing Champions, which I don't think is really a surprise to anyone, right? Crashies has done a great job. It's going to be cool to see him, let's say, run out the season with this team, which means that Leo won't be featuring for us this season. There will be an update around Leo and his future at some point in the coming months. Thanks all. So, look, everyone's wishing the best for Leo. We don't really know what's happened there. Why he hasn't played, been able to return to playing, or really what's going on at all behind the scenes. And it's, you know, it's none of our business, but Fnatic will let us know at some point, but he's not returning yet. And the implication of this really is that he's probably not returning, at least to Fnatic ever, right? It seems very doubtful. Of course, this season he's not played for them, and look, this could mean a number of things, but from Fnatic's perspective, it feels pretty likely that they say there'll be an update at some point in the coming months. So he's confirming that there will be an update, and that update is for sure. So that update is not going to be, okay, Leo's back and he's going to play again, because clearly they're not sure they can give that update, right? Like, they would love to be able to say, and Leo would, I'm sure, be able to say, look, I will be back at this date, and that's how it's going to be. But clearly they can't say that, because if they could say that and Leo was able to return and that was what they wanted to happen, then they would have already been able to say it. So the fact that Kojo says, like, there is going to be an update at some point, you know, the update is probably going to be either at that time that they do the update, Leo's okay to return, or frankly, far more likely that he won't be returning and that Fnatic will likely be moving on. I don't know, that's just the way that I look at it. I can't really see any other outcome at this point. But it'd be great to see Leo back again somewhere, right, on another team, or obviously with Fnatic as well. But I think the more this drags on and the more we don't really understand what's happening here, the more likely it becomes that Leo might just never play Valorant competitively again. It's plausible. As sad as it would be, it's very plausible, and I don't think this announcement does anything to allay any of those concerns. This is what's happening, therefore, in Europe. So Apex got the loss. They went down. Movistar also got 2-1s by Na'Vi. That put Na'Vi at 3-2, so they're in an okay spot. Of course, KC, they play Liquid. So KC are going to be fourth, I think, anyway, because even if they beat Liquid, their 3-2 record, they'll lose to Na'Vi because they're head-to-head tiebreaker. That's Group Omega. Group Alpha looks like this. We've got Giant X, Heretics, and Gentlemates versus Vitality coming up today. Big game for Vitality. A really big game for Vitality to at least get to 2-3 and give themselves a realistic chance to try and make it happen if there's, you know, some big tiebreakers there. Vitality's other win was against FUT Esports, so they're going to need to hope the tiebreakers work out in their favour over there. Let's talk, though, about the Pacific, because some big drama happening. Talon yesterday took down Nongshim, the 2-0. We saw this start to unfold. The latest was 13-5. They then won the Corona 16-14 overtime banger. Primi on the deadlock 30-19. The other game that happened yesterday was T1. They got the win against RRQ. Jimkin was back. He tried his best, but it wasn't enough, and T1 advanced. DH now, after obviously some of the drama they've had with that T1 team this season, Sylvan being there and then being gone, they get over the line, but it wasn't exactly pretty. 13-9, 13-7 the other way, and then a 13-8 in the end on the sunset. But fast forward to this morning, and it's all going on. As FNS says, huge congrats to T1, prepared to get obliterated tomorrow. And the other drama was, again, because Talon was set to play DRX. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the lore here and all of the history, but just know, and this explains all of the details, why Frost, the coach of Talon, is not a big fan of Termi from DRX. And it's true both ways around. This has been ongoing for some time. There were questions about whether it would ever be resolved, and it does not seem that is going to be the case at all. So today, just an hour or so ago, they do the official walkouts, and we can see here that Frost makes obviously no attempt to look over to his right, but Termi he doesn't even want to stand there, right? He doesn't even want to stand next to the guy. He's just going to turn around and talk to his team. So yeah, very entertaining as ever between these two. And if we have a look at how the series is getting on, it's currently a 1-1 game. Talon are up 4-0 on the map 3. Bind, it was DRX's win in the end. They had a strong start. Talon tried to bring it back but lost. The Haven, though, Talon have just bounced back. And at the start of the Lotus, it's a 4-0 start. So, look, obviously, by the time this video goes live, you guys may well know the result. Of course, we'll talk about it in detail tomorrow. But yeah, drama everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. Is this finally Frost's time to get revenge on his great rival? But the other big drama was on EG and whether there's serious roster changes here happening. So Derek was presumably in a scrim. They were down 9-12 to somebody, but there was no Icy, obviously Apoth, but there was no Icy, there was no Supermen. So it looked like they were messing around with their roster. And, well, maybe they were, maybe they are, but there's been some speculation. Era says, Streets are saying EG are scrimming without Icy. Icy says Streets don't know what they're talking about, and Derek drops the thumbs up. Now, look, has Icy been on a horrific run of form lately? Yeah, he has been, absolutely. It's been disastrous. But EG, we know how they operate. they don't really like to splash money, and especially at this time in the season, it would be a strange one, would it not, for them to just decide that now was the time for them to make a serious change. If we just have a quick look here at the Americas, we've got Evil Geniuses sitting at 1-3. They've got one more game to come, and that game is against Furia. Is now the time, right? Because even if they win that series, they'll be 2-3. They're going to start in the lower side of the playoffs. They've got to become a finalist of the playoffs to even qualify for the World Championship. Are you going to make like a, are you going to drop Icy and Superman and bring in like Demon One and Rossi? Not like they would do that, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like, would they do that now and give them 2-week contracts, have them play what could just be a couple of series? Look, maybe it's worth a try, but it's one of those decisions that would feel very much like too little, too late at the moment. And Icy is seemingly implying that, yeah, I'm not going anywhere, at least not yet. I mean, the reality is that if this run of form continues, Icy will be going somewhere in about a couple of weeks when the team fails to make it through to the World Championship, and the team's been an absolute nightmare. But yeah, he was... Interestingly enough, there was no Derek, or there was a Derek here, but there was no Icy and Superman. So people, of course, were raising questions. The implication here from Icy and seemingly from Derek in the replies is that, yeah, like there was not much truth to this, but who actually knows what's going on? Couple of other scrimbucks. This was an interesting one. Again, the G2 situation continues to confuse me, but VCT Scrims come out with this. We've got no screenshot here, but also we don't know who they're playing anyway, so it doesn't really matter. G2 down 1-13 to some team, and apparently with Baby Bay. So, yeah, what are they cooking, right? What are they cooking? Baby Bay, Leaf, what's going on? Who are they playing here? Who are they getting slapped around by? Because I will say, the scrims with Leaf, let's say a month ago, whatever, they were just deadly, like G2 would be slapping around everyone in scrims. And they're still really good in the games, right? Even with Baby Bay. But their scrim results with Baby Bay just haven't been quite as strong. Not to say that means everything, but you would never see the G2 with Leaf get beaten 31 in a scrim. At least I don't really think you would. So anyway, tweet your thoughts in the comments. Sentinels allowed Furia to get 6 rounds on them in a scrim, which was, yeah, pretty embarrassing to say. But, we saw the other day that there were comments that Furia are actually better in practice than they are in real life. But very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.